If you like stuff, then check out the Am I Stuff podcast with Mr. Kelsey Hudgins. He's a fella.
Live from the Screwball Whiskey Studios.
That's right, guys. Live from the Screwball Whiskey Studios, indeed. Yeah. Neat, huh? I'm tired. So, how the hell are you guys? Is the world treating you alright? You doing well? Good, I'm glad to hear that. I want to try to keep my eye on this up here and see if we're doing alright. See, I keep reloading on the YouTube thing. It's just not going my way lately. I don't know what the deal is. I just went into the settings and everything and changed all of the output settings and stuff like that. And it's showing green on here, but definitely, I don't know, it's definitely buffering there. Who knows? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's me. Mm-hmm. I don't know. If you are watching, can you hear anything that I'm saying, or is it just reloading? I wonder. I wonder what the deal is with that. This has got to be a YouTube thing because I'm not I'm good to go. 0 dropped frames. Literally everything is coming out fine. But for the sake of shit, I'm gonna Is this better? It still looks fuzzy on screen, doesn't it? Will look a little fuzzy there. All the words are fuzzy. Will look a little fuzzy there. All the words are fuzzy. Sounds fine. It's coming through. A little fuzzy there. It's coming through good. Maybe we are getting a little better. I dropped the I don't know, nobody's gonna give a shit about this. I lowered the output like quality a little bit to see if that would help some. It just looks strange, but I don't care. So, anyway, alright, yeah, I think that's a little better. I think I figured out my issue, and it's going well so far, I think. Yeah. I think I figured out my issue, and it's going well so far, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, yeah, let's do some podcasting. Let's do some podcasting. Let's do some podcasting. Alright, so today was good. I got up around, what time was it? 2 probably. And shit, I'm yawning now. I haven't even yawned at all. I haven't yawned at all, and then I get started on here, and that's the first thing I do. I'm gonna share this out on the thing. You can hear me. Hold on. I'm gonna share this out on the thing, and that's all you get to hear. I'm gonna share this out on the thing. You know, I'm doing exactly what I just said I was gonna do. So, yeah. All right. Gotta share it out. I'm actually gonna share it here too. Hold on just a second. All right, now what I'm going to do is stop the audio. I'm going to boot this audio because that is no good. Done with that. We'll restart this whole thing and we'll go just like this. Yeah, I just had to restart this thing because I was sharing it out on the social media and all the other stuff. I was going live on Facebook for... going live on Facebook simultaneously as YouTube, and that I think was just bad. Yeah, I think that was just a not good thing to do because oh no. What is that? Everything's going fine. It's saying, it's saying I'm red. I'm sorry, audio folks. I was having video issues, but I'm not concerned with that anymore. I don't care. If anything weird happens in the video, let me know in the chat. So yeah, it's been a pretty good day so far. Like I got up around, like I said, around 2:00, and I took a shower and got ready to go to my gig, which I had to leave around a little before 5, and I had enough time to swing by the music store over on 544. Sound Systems on 544. Be sure to stop by there and see Joey and Austin and let them help you out with any of your musical needs. So I did that, and I just did make it to my gig in time enough to not be too late for it to matter, and I streamed it. For some reason, I had a dream last night about Brody Stevens, and it was like, I don't know what it was, but I was watching something yesterday, or I was listening to, you know what it was? It was an old episode of Joe Rogan's podcast with Joey Diaz and Brian Redband when he was in the old studio with the mugshots behind him. I was listening to that, and they were talking about Brody Stevens, and they were just talking about walking around all the time on Periscope. And I had that thought, like, man, Brody literally did just like walk around all the time streaming on Periscope. And I was like, why don't I do that? Why don't I do that more? Because my whole deal with doing the YouTube thing and trying to further the further my YouTube I don't know, my YouTube name or numbers or whatever. The reason I've been trying to up my subscribers is because I wanted to be able to go live on mobile, because that's really a cool thing to do, is to be able to just grab your phone and just go live any second. Because I don't know, man, I'm a nerd. I'm much better at speaking with people when they're not in front of me. I don't know why that is, but I don't know. I'm that way sometimes, and I would really like to be able to just like grab my phone at any time and go live. And I was like, wow, I can do that through Periscope. And now I'm using Twitter a little bit more than I was, and yeah, because I've had a Twitter for years now, but I've literally just started using it within the past year. And I don't know, man, like every single time I'll go live on Periscope, it'll just pop up on my Twitter, so couple hundred people will see that, and I'll get a few watching. And that was cool. Like, I went live earlier, and there's a group of Twitter folks that I know and love. Y'all know Liz. What up? Misery in the house. Them voices. Man, get y'all a wrench. The Voices of Misery podcast, which you guys should 100% check out. One of the biggest porn stars in the world. Oh, I heard that, man. I heard that. I will say this, man. Hardest working podcaster in this area for sure. Like, I don't know anybody who works as hard at podcasting as y'all do. Like, that's for sure. Ava Devine, huh? Goodness, that's pretty solid, dude. That's pretty big deal, man. Just interviewed. Did I get that right? Stop. I hear you, man. No, but seriously, that's a big deal, man. Voices of Misery podcast, guys. Go check them out for sure. At Voices of Misery on Twitter. Also, yeah, there's an episode of this podcast featuring them. I love you guys back, and yeah, we did episodes. I did one with those guys. There's an interview with me with them, and that was really, really fucking awesome. And one with them with me, and that was really awesome as well. So definitely check all of those out. But anyway. Yeah, so I had a dream about Brody fucking Stevens. You got it. What up, Brandy? Brody Stevens, you got it. Yes. Positive push. And I don't know why I have random dreams about hanging out with people that I watch on podcasts. And somehow it was Brody Stevens this time, and he was just walking around selfie stick with a selfie stick with just if you know Brody, you know what's what the deal is. He always walked around with a selfie stick and it's falling live on Periscope, and I was like, man, that sounds like something that I really enjoy. And I was taught positive energy, positive push. Yes. You got it. But yeah, I had that in my head all day. And I said, you know what? I'm going to Periscope my show tonight. I'm going to go live tonight for the show. And I got everything that I needed. And I got on the road halfway there and was like, fuck. My phone's at like 70% and I forgot my charger. I wanted to go live for the whole thing because it was good, man. I had some people show up to the gig that always come and see me up in North Myrtle Beach, and the great and powerful Rolls apostrophe. I say Rolls is because I said it redneckily. They're Rolls, and they're just some of my favorite people in the world. And they came out, and a few other people who are just really, really fucking cool. And they're so cool, and I feel horrible that I'm just terrible at remembering names. But I know and I see and know them and love them to death. And it brightens my life to see them in any time I get to. But their name escapes me I'm just horrible with names. And we're Facebook friends too, so I should know the name. But anyway, that's beside the point. It was so good to see them as well. And there were some new people that I hadn't met before that ended up being the mother and I guess boyfriend of the mother of somebody else that I know. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, it was just a weird. Usually for that gig, the reason I like to go live for that Liberty gig is because of. There's usually nobody in the room. It's usually just me by myself there playing acoustic songs to nobody. And it's literally a paid practice. I've played that gig before to where 0 people were in the crowd until the very end somebody walked out who sat at the inside bar the whole night and just saw me play to a room full of nobody. And right at 9 o'clock, which is when I'd be getting done, they walked out and hung out with me for a bit. Out of pity, I guess. But usually I'll go live for those things because it's fun. And I don't know. I just wish I would have brought my charger. See, I'm first world problems, white people problems. I should have just brought I forgot my charger at home. Worst thing that happened today. But no, it was cool. I was messing around half with like trying to do some jokes in between, trying to get a little bit of a laugh out of the crowd. And you know what's funny is I've got a few like really funny bits that always do really well, but every now and again I'll do it and I'll do the same exact way, like the same exact pauses and everything, and it just doesn't work. Like I've got this one bit where I'll go, you ever walk into a Blockbuster and rent Major League 2 and then get home to find out that it's Time Cop? Weekend ruined. And then usually everybody kind of looks at each other like, Blockbuster, what? And then that's an old joke is part of the bit. Like that's an old joke. And that's usually does really, really well for some reason down here. But it didn't tonight. And I was like, oh man, you know what? And then I said, that joke usually does really well. I don't know what the deal is here or whatever, or something like that. Those things ended up being funnier. Don't tell nobody. Yeah, that ended up being funnier than the thing that I was trying to be funny. So I think that maybe just me normal, like me normal is funnier than me trying to be funny. Is that, I think. But I don't know. I'm still going to fucking try because I got Kill Tony paused right now. I was rewatching episode number 406. Dom Irrera and Josh Wolf. Dom Irrera is king. God, he doesn't speak. He doesn't say a lot on Kill Tony's, but when he does, it's powerful. But I don't know. I feel like I did really well with the crowd tonight. Like the response from the crowd was really, really positive. Positive push. You got it. See, Brody's stuck in my head now. Like the crowd was really good tonight. I enjoyed being there with them, and like it's just not anything against this gig, and it's a very good gig. They take care of me all through the wintertime, and I love that gig. But that's sort of a gig where I usually go into it thinking, okay, this is just going to be me by myself. I'm going to bring my phone. I'll talk to my internet friends while I'm playing or whatever, and that's usually what I do every single time I go there. I just don't. I think that it's. And I had a conversation, and that's actually what I'll kind of talk about here for this episode. Is that I had a conversation with a guy about streaming things onto the internet. With like not. I don't know. I'm going to try to paraphrase this the best that I can, but streaming things versus actually going to see things live. And I explained it like, listen, there are people who I communicate with that are not in this country. There are people that I communicate with that are literally all over the world on the internet and all over this country. And I like know these people just through typing back and forth. And I want to do better than that. I want to bridge the gap between the keyboard and the person, and I know this is still, there's screens between us. That sounds like a romantic song for like 2019. There are screens between us. But anyway, but seriously, I know that there are still screens between us, but I like to show my face and speak and like show you guys who I actually am rather than just you imagining what this thing that I'm typing on the internet sounds like. And I don't know. Plus, fuck, I got almost 200 episodes of this podcast under my belt. That's pretty impressive, right? Shit, my podcast, I've got almost, like, Kill Tony's just past 400. Shit, and I mean, they started, what, 6 years ago? I started 2 years ago. That's a lot, right? You know, that's a pretty big deal, man. Like 200 episodes after like getting hard after it for a while. I mean, shit, I've been doing this thing a while. So I've already been trying to I don't want to say force myself into the internet because that sounds really creepy. Yikes. Ugh. But no, I've literally been trying to further the name and further the, I don't know, I got a message that I want to get out, and I just want people to pay more attention and just be fucking better. Just if you know that you can be better and you choose not to, then that's a foolish thing to do. And I'm talking to myself more times than not on this thing because I know that I can be better, and I'm not being better, and I'm literally just talking mostly to myself here. I want people to hold themselves to the same standard that I hold myself to, and I know that that's a conceited thing to think, but I just quite frankly don't fucking care because that's how I feel. I feel like if everyone would think every single time, if everyone would think, is this thing true and honest? Is this thing real? Is this me? Is this real me? Is this actually me? Or is this just something that I'm creating to show the world? Because for so fucking long, I was that person who created a part of me to show the world through characters. And, you know, that person was really fucking cool. And a lot of those characters that I built was great. But after years of doing that, I can't do it anymore. I'm running out of energy. And there's certain times in which I have characters for. I have masks that I put on for certain things and for certain situations that I put myself under. And I still do that. And authenticity matters to authentic people. Absolutely. That's all I want is authenticity. Even if these people are a piece of shit. If they are that piece of shit, I have a lot of piece of shit friends. But the piece of shit friends that I have know they're pieces of shit. You know, they know exactly where they are. I have no patience for someone who is not authentic. That's a good way to put it. I have no patience for someone who is not true to at least themselves, man, because you're lying to yourself first. You know, you're lying to yourself more, first, and that's no way to go through life. But man, I don't know. I have a lot of friends who are just shitty people. But you know what? Some of my friends who are shitty people, they know they're shitty people. Just and they own up to it and they live up to it, and I just think that there's honor in that. I don't care what side of the coin people. But no, I don't care. Repio said, I don't care where people fall, what side of the coin people fall on. Like, there's certain people who being themselves is the kind of shitty person that I might not want to be around. But if it's just somebody who's like, they're just an asshole, or they say exactly what they think and have no filter, then I'm sorry, but there's honor in being comfortable enough to be that person. Just being comfortable enough with knowing that, you know what, I'm going to say exactly what I think, but exactly what I think is right. And I don't mean correct. I mean just it'll land them on the right side of history. And I like that. Owning it 1,000% matters. You have to own it. I mean, don't say it if you're not going to own it, you know? That's the and people used to say it. People used to say it about fighting, about talking shit back in the day. Don't write a check your ass can't cash. Don't let your mouth write a check that your ass can't cash. But fuck, ain't it? Don't write a check. Don't let your mouth write a check that your ass can't cash. Like, don't go out into the world and be like, oh, here I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. And then if you were to like be put in a situation to prove all of these things that you're saying about yourself, you couldn't do it. Don't fucking say it. You know what I mean? But still, like, just be real. All I'm trying to do on this thing is be real. I'm trying to get people to be real and own up to shit. All of these people who want to come around and fucking bury Shane Gillis because he made a bad joke on a podcast. It really wasn't even funny. And who cares? I mean, who wants to do Saturday Night Live right now? Because fuck, what's it doing for anybody? I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm a huge comedy head. Saturday Night Live hadn't been good in a long time, y'all. I mean, great. I mean, I love Kristen Wiig. I love fucking Keenan. I love a lot of the cast members, but dude, I'm just saying, if you think the Saturday Night Live has been great or has been even good over the last few years, the only episodes that are great are the ones in which Eddie Murphy comes back, or the ones in which Adam Sandler comes back, or Alec Baldwin comes and does Trump or something like that. Like, that's the only time in which these episodes are actually being big hits. I mean, right? Maybe, maybe not. But who fucking cares? All I'm saying is that people want to get all butthurt when they hear a comedian say something that maybe offends them or something like that. And you're getting to the point where you're making it about you. Just like Tony Hinchcliffe said about the woman at Dallas, Hyenas in Dallas. And he made a hilarious, and I'm from Alabama, y'all. I'm from Alabama. Like, I was born in South Carolina. My dad was born in Alabama. My dad, my uncle, my granddad, my bloodline is in Alabama. I'm from there. The joke was Alabama or abortion now made illegal in Alabama. And then he says the only state in which abortion should be mandatory, it is now illegal. And it's hilarious. I'm sorry, because this is the thing with comedy, is I know as somebody who watches comedy, and I'm not even going to say as a comic, because I'm not that even close. I can't call myself that, but I've fucking watched comedy long enough to know that when these comedians say stuff like that, they're saying it to be funny. They don't believe this stuff. They're making jokes. That's literally what this shit is. Like, I'll give you the perfect example on this episode right here of Kill Tony. And I've watched every single episode of Kill Tony from episode 1 to now within the last year. Like, for sure, maybe the last 6-7 months. Like, I binged it all in a hurry. Now, Kill Tony, the premise of the show is, and you guys have probably who've listened to the podcast a bunch or already know what I'm about to say. Kill Tony, they give a comedian 60 seconds to do their show, and then they either roast them on their act or help them through this. And usually when they're roasting it, like, that Tony will always come back from the roast and like make sure that this person, like, there was a guy on this episode here, number 406, who got up a while ago, and he they were roasting him pretty hard, and then he was like, yeah, I'm pretty nervous right now. So and then Tony was like, you're nervous? Okay. And then he literally changed his whole demeanor and asked this guy, like, just a total off the wall question, just take his mind off of what was going on. Like, Tony is so aware of that guy's emotions on stage. And that was just such a heads up move from him that I don't think a lot of other people would notice. Just the fact that Tony, like, just makes this guy feel like, hey man, you're cool. We're all here together. You're good. You're fine. Just calm down. And that was necessary, man. I think that did that guy good. 100% people are looking for a reason to be offended. And that's comedy is the only place where everything is still safe. Everything has to be safe. Like, seriously. You said, Brandy, you've been watching Brody videos. Did you watch the memorial, the whole memorial? Because in the memorial, and for those who didn't know this, Brody Stevens was a brilliant comedian, and I hate to say that I didn't know a lot about Brody until, unfortunately, he passed. And I'm ashamed to say that because he was great, but I didn't know. I mean, I knew who he was, but I didn't know a lot about, you know, his comedy and stuff like that, like who he was as a person and shit until, you know, after he passed. And that was sort of one of the things that got me into Kill Tony, honestly, was because Brody was in a lot of the early episodes of Kill Tony. And, you know, but anyway, at the memorial, at Brody's memorial, one of his high school friends got up and told this long, drawn out, like really sweet, really heartfelt story. And the whole room was like, everybody was sad, and it was all cry. Everybody was sad, like not a dry eye in the house for real. Everybody was depressed and sad. Jeff Ross gets up on the stage and says, he goes, Jesus Christ, no wonder Brody killed himself. He's like, after that guy, did you hear that guy's speech? He's like, no wonder Brody killed himself. And just the entire room went ape shit. Everybody just died laughing. And this was at his fucking memorial. Granted, it was at a comedy store, but dude, just that whole situation in comedy, to where you have to police everything that you say, and Netflix and every other aspect of stand-up comedy is throwing mediocre comedians who fit a certain, and forgive me, I'm sorry, but mediocre comedians who fit a certain demographic and who fall into a certain category. And that's not cool, man. That's not cool. That is the participation trophy of handling things, man. That's just, you can't throw in people who just simply aren't that funny just because they have this defining feature about themselves that is lacking in the industry at this point. Like, I'm sorry, they made a good it would be too much for me to go into, but anyway, it's not fair to the comedians who are actually doing well. And you know what? They talk about, I've been watching Roast Battle a lot, and they talk about Tony having his stand-up taken off of Netflix. And, dude, Tony doesn't need his stand-up on Netflix. Kill Tony is destroying right now. Like, literally, people are making careers from Kill Tony. Like, I mean, all of the people who are... Think of this. Kimberly Congdon, Sarah Weinschenk, Ali Makovsky, Malcolm Hatchett, all of these people who are doing their own very big things, Vanessa Johnston, all doing big things in comedy right now that started on Kill Tony. Like, a lot of careers have been made off of Ali Makovsky's opening for Rogan right now. Sarah Weinschenk has one of the best podcasts on, it's on Comedy Central, right? Shanks for Smoking. I think it's on Comedy Central, but she has a great podcast. Kim Congdon is killing it all through Roast Battle and all that shit. And also, they're all doing really well. Careers were started because of this Kill Tony thing. He doesn't need no special on on Netflix. He shows his chops every Monday night on the fly. Who else is doing that? I don't know, live, but I love the thought of that. I don't know where that thought is coming from, but yes, the whole thought of comedians being. I love Kill Tony because it's so off color, like it's so raw. You can't bottle that shit up. You can't you can't take that away from them. You cannot take that away from the comedians. That's the last place where everything is still on the table. And nothing is safe, nor should it be. Because comedy is the one place that reminds you that no matter all of these people I had the lady at Hyenas in Dallas. I taught people with special needs. You can't make a Helen Keller joke because I taught people with special needs. The shitty part about this whole situation is that the comedians ended up on that stage because of horrible things that happened to them. That's the common denominator for, I would say, 99% of the comics have had a horrible trauma that they have endured in their lives that has ended them up on that stage with that microphone. And that's the common denominator across the board. So 9 times out of 10, that comic has gone through more shit than the things that he's making fun of. I don't know. I know I went on a random rant there. Yeah, also heard me stories on various podcasts. Oh yeah, I'm very temperamental too. Oh, for sure. That's right. They want. That's the thing about sad people, is they want the rest of the world to be happy because they know what it's like to be sad. And I know that Robin Williams picture floats around Facebook and the internet, all Reddit, blah, 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 all for a while now. And it's true. Most people who try to bring happiness to the world are the most sad because they know what true sadness feels like and they don't want anyone else to feel it. And that's accurate. I can vouch for that. Like, I was explaining it to some folks tonight. Like, I was a depressed kid. Like, I was a sad kid because I would go, I don't know, I just wasn't good at school. And I didn't do well in situations like that. Like, I wasn't good at school at all. And I like I said, I was just a depressed kid. I was sad, and I was explaining it to somebody like, that's just how I grew up. That's how I've always been. I've grown up with that sadness, and I have always been the class clown. I've always been the funny guy. Even in my family, like, I was always the one that everybody was gathered around, you know, during the family gatherings, and I'd be playing a funny song or making up words to something and doing some sort of comedy, trying to make everybody else laugh. And I was explaining that before I realized, grow one, dude. Do it. Grow a beard. But seriously, I was explaining to them that before I realized that I was good at something, because music was the first thing that I ever got good at. Well, I don't know if it was the first thing I ever got good at, but it was the first thing that I was ever like, oh, I understand this thing. And it was really all happened after I got in this big accident. You want to hear about my crazy the head injury? I think I told it on the Voices of Misery podcast episode that I did over there. But anyway, I fell off the back of a car when I was 8 years old because I was selling World's Finest Chocolate. Walking down to the house, quarter mile away, and my Aunt Marie pulled next to me and said, jump on the back of the car, jump on the trunk of the car, and we'll drive slow and get you down there quicker. So I jumped on the back of the car, And I appreciate that. Appreciate that, nerd. But yeah, I just got on the back of the car, was driving up to the house or whatever, and I fell off and hit my head really, really hard, and had a blood clot inside my brain, and got to the hospital there in my hometown. They said there was nothing that could be done. They had to get me to Florence as fast as they could. So I died 3 times in the ambulance between my hometown and Florence, South Carolina, which is about an hour. I don't know how long it took them in an ambulance, but I died 3 times between there and there. But yeah, it was just supposed to be over for me. Like, it wasn't, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, that was when I checked out. And every after that, everybody always said, you've got a plan. Like, somebody has a plan for you. Something like you're meant to do good things because you're still here, you know. So I had that being embedded in my mind at such an early age. Like, that's right, good people do find each other. By the way, the good people are what I'm calling the listeners of this podcast. So if you're listening to this podcast, you part of the good people. You can tell everybody that you good people. That's right, I did. You're right, Nerd has a similar story too. But still, like, I had just from a very early age, people telling me you were meant for great things because you're still here. You survived this for a reason. You're gonna do big things, and I had that embedded in my mind from such an early age. And after that, I don't know why or how, but the music just started happening. I started playing music when I was 8 years old. And that was like, it was right around my birthday too. So I started playing music when I was 8 years old. I got my first drum set, my first real drum set when I was 8 years old. And it was like a movie. I sat, the very first time I ever sat behind a real drum set, I just like, I mean, I just played a beat. Like, I played a simple, straightforward beat the first time I ever sat down at a drum set. And and I'm not going to say that it was like one of those, after you have like a head injury or a brain injury, that something gets set off in your brain or something like that. But damn, I don't really know another way to describe it. But after I had the head injury, music literally just started making sense to me. And after that, any instrument that I wanted to play, anything that I wanted to do, I could just pick it up and do it. And I told you that long story to make this one small point. Forgive me, I'm long-winded. I grew up in church, I can't help it. But all of that, getting to that point. Oh yeah, absolutely. Later, bro. Appreciate you hanging out. Yeah, 100%. Hit me up. We'll try to do a show if you want. I got nothing to do. But yes, just having that thing after all of that time of not being good at anything, like making mediocre grades, not doing really well in school, and not only that, the head injury happened and I missed a lot of school. I missed the portion of school in which multiplication tables were introduced. So I never learned my multiplication tables. Like, math is very, very difficult for me outside of splitting money. Like, I'm really good at money math. I don't know how or why, but money math makes a lot of sense to me. I can get written a check and split that bitch 3 ways in my head and know exactly how much I'm owing each person. But I can't do any other kind of math. Like, I'm really bad at it. So, like, finally having music and finally having something that I was good at, something that people didn't look, something that where I did it and didn't let anybody down. Like, I was a bad kid, man. Like, I let a lot of people down with the choices that I made as a child and just the shit that I did as a kid, just bad, mean kid shit. I was bad, and I let a lot of people down when I was a kid with a lot of the shit that I did just because I was mischievous, I was mean, I was hateful, I was spiteful, I was just a fucking mean kid. And I let a lot of people down, and this was the first time, like, playing music. I'll never forget being like I was 8 years old when I started playing the drums, and that just kind of made sense to me. And then shortly after that, I sat down at the piano with my granddad, and he showed me like Lean On, or no, my dad actually. I think my dad actually showed me Lean On Me on the piano. And once I did that one time, I went to music class at school and asked my music teacher, I said I learned a song on the piano. Could I play it for the class? And I got behind the piano and I counted the keys. I counted the keys to make sure I got to the right one. And I got to where I was supposed to be. And I remember the very first time that I played the dun, 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 dun. Like everybody in my class, like I was such a fuck up. Like I was the class clown. I even told them, they had this little rack where you put your coats and shit, a little coat rack. But I'm from South Carolina. You don't need no damn coat, even in fucking December. But the coat rack, that was my little cubby hole. They gave me, I was a class clown. Like I would talk to anybody they put me next to. I'd talk to them. And I couldn't help it. Like that's just who the fuck I was. I was a talker. And they put me next to somebody and I started talking to them. So they said they had it figured out. So they put me in like second and third grade. And shit, man, probably fourth grade too. I don't know. What, the piano? But yeah. But like I was like, they would put my desk in those little cubby holes, those little coat racks. Like they would put me in there, and they didn't realize it, neither did I. But that was my first stage. That was my first stage, and I would always try to make people laugh. I'd always be making jokes, and in the older I got, and the meaner I got, and when I got into high school, I remember being in Latta High School in Latta, South Carolina, home of Raymond Felton. But yeah, I was in Latta High School in chorus class, and we had a chorus teacher who was a big guy, and he brought a chair out and said, y'all got to take care of these chairs because this is what it looks like if y'all don't take care of these chairs. And it looked like it had been like stomped on. And I was like, oh, that must have been your chair. And the whole class went ape shit laughing. And then he got mad and like hollered at me and said, I don't know, you need to look in the mirror because you ain't too thin yourself. And I was like, oh shit. You know, he hurt my feelings, man. I was like, oh, fuck. I was a kid. I didn't know what I was getting into. But I even messaged that guy on Facebook, man. I reached out to him and I was like, dude, I'm sorry for being a dick when I was a kid, man. My bad. I didn't mean nothing by it. And I never got a message back, dude. Like, it could have been the reason that dude lost his job, you know? Like, he could have lost his job because of me. Like, that was just, I don't know, man. I feel like a couple teachers lost their job. I know one did for sure. But that was kind of her fault too. But nah, man. I don't know. I feel like I might have provoked. Because I was a mean kid, man. I would provoke people. I would poke at them, and I feel like I might have poked at the wrong people, and I don't know. Like maybe got like instigated situations with like getting yelled at and something inappropriate getting said, and then like me telling my mom about it, and then my mom is a fucking psychopath. She's crazy, and like she was a psychopath, and just my mom had like straight up mental issues, but she would dude, my mom went and shadowed me at school. Y'all ever heard of that? Like somebody's mom coming and sitting behind them in school. My mom did that to me in Latta High School. The most embarrassing motherfucking thing ever. I was in the 6th grade, dude. Y'all, I got bullied so fucking bad because of that shit. And I was a big kid too, but I was always a gentle giant. Like I was like, I don't know, like I was always a big kid. But man, I literally was a gentle giant. Like I wasn't threatening at all. You know what I mean? Like I just wasn't. And man, I got picked on so fucking bad because my mom came and went to school with me. And she embarrassed me so bad, dude. Like she would be asking questions in class. Like she'd be asking questions in class to my teachers, like just fucking, just so embarrassing, man. Like it enrages me to think of that time in my life. And I don't talk about that period in my life a lot just because me and my mom don't speak. And I don't like to bring up shit in like that involves her. But this shit enraged me, dude. Like she would show up every single day, go to school with me and sit next to me in every fucking class. And like everything I said, she fucking slapped the shit out of me one time in class in front of all my friends and shit. Man, that was just fucked up. Like, I mean, she fucking slapped the shit out of me, like in my mouth. In the middle of class. I was in Mr. Foxworth's class. Everybody fucking got quiet. The whole fucking class got quiet. And I just sat there with tears welled up in my fucking eyes and took that shit like a man, I guess. That was fucked up, though. But straight up, like, and then, I don't know, man. Everybody would pick on me about that shit. I went to Latta High School for another year after that, and then I got the fuck out and went to Bennettsville to oh man, that sucks. I knew the feeling. But seriously, like my mom doing that shit like fucked up my whole life in middle school and shit, and I didn't realize it. I mean, I understand, Brandy, but you know, coming to terms with doing something bad like that, coming to terms with something like that is a big deal. It's necessary. But I ended up like taking the brunt of that. Like a lot of people ragged on me for a real long time about my mom coming. And like even like some of my teachers would even mention something like that. Like if I would just a little bit of the like old me of just trying to be a piece of shit would slip out, then they would be like, and this is why your mama's got to come to school with you. And then all the students would be like, oh, and I'm like all embarrassed and shit. And the thing I hate the most is being embarrassed. But fuck, that was embarrassing, man. My mom signed the paper in Latta High School for my assistant principal, Miss Leggett, so she could fucking paddle me. I got paddled probably 5 or 6 times by the assistant principal, Miss Leggett, in Latta High School. Like, I'd go in our office and literally there was a big old box of paddles that they brought out, and I swear to God, it was just like they explain it in like they just like your parents explain whenever they got paddled in school, and they'd bring out a box of paddles, and like I swear to God, like they brought out a box of paddles, grabbed one out of there, and said, "All right," grabbed the arms of that chair, and I grabbed the arms of that chair that made me fucking bend over in the fucking principal's office. Grabbed the arms of a chair, and she proceeded to fucking whoop my ass like the assistant principal. And I'm 33 years old. So this happened when I was in probably 6th grade. I would have been 11 years old, 10 or 11, 12, 10, 11, 12. So, yeah, I got my ass paddled at public school in 1997, 1998, I was getting my ass cut at school by someone who was not my parents. And that's a fact. The thing that sucks about it is nothing could be done because my mom signed the motherfucking form for him to do it. And listen, and I'm not acting like I was a saint that didn't deserve that shit. I deserved it. I deserved worse than what I got just because I was a little fuck up. I was a mean motherfucker. But I got it honest. I learned that shit from somewhere, you know. I mean, I grew up in a family of people who roast everybody. Like that's like a big. I heard David Lucas say that. Somebody asked him how he got so good at roasting people. He was like, "Dude, my family, everybody's just that's roast. That's how it is." And that's true. That's how my family was too. We all roasted everybody. Everybody was just picking on other people. But my dad's side of the family, who I still know and love, my dad actually had a knee replacement yesterday. I need to go hang out with him. He's gonna be housebound for a while. My dad's best friend, one of his best friends, just passed away today too. Man, it's a big bummer. R.I.P. Brother Bruce. Oh yeah, I agree, Brandy. And now that I look at it like that, it's like that's one of the things that sucks the most about becoming an adult is that you look back on things that you didn't think twice of back in the day, and now you look at it and it's like, oh man, that was a really fucked up thing that happened. Like, I can't believe that actually happened to me. And did you watch Friends at all? Anybody watch Friends? Remember that episode of Friends where Chandler goes to Joey's tailor to get measured for a suit? Oh, right, 100%. Shout out to brothers and sisters, keep it real. I got one baby sister who's as good at it as I am. She's the middle sister. She's good as shit at it. But that episode of Friends where Chandler goes to Joey's tailor to get a suit made, and Chandler's like, dude, like he gets up in there when he's, measuring, and then Joey's like, oh yeah, that's how he's always, that's how you measure. And they're like, no, Joey, it's not how you measure. And they like talked to him, and he like realized, oh shit, this is not cool. Man, like that's crazy. I used when I was young too, I was going to the doctor. Like my mom would send me to the doctor, and I went to this doctor in like it was right across the state line. It was some friends of my my stepdad's. One of the guys that he ran a mechanic shop or something like that. My stepdad did used cars, so we one of the mechanics that he had a wife who was a doctor, and I went to her like 3 or 4 times, and every single time I would go in there, she would always like get way up close to me and like put her junk on my knee. Like she would by her junk, y'all know what I mean. She would just like lean in over me and like just got real awkward and shit like that. I mentioned that to my mom one time, and like shit wasn't cool after that. Like my mom was just so fucking like dumb. Like she was the kind of person that would hear something and then immediately react without any thought at all as to like no thought at all about what was going on and shit. Like, but she would, I don't know if she like went and called somebody and complained or whatever like that, but like my mom was the reason that, and she would always like pull it out of me somehow. Like shit that I just shouldn't reveal, like shit that I shouldn't say to anybody. My mom just had a way where she would just be, what up, Divan? How's it going there? People would just ask me so many questions and so many fucking questions. And like, or she would just ask me so many questions and so many questions, just like not stop badgering me about like what I did that day. She wanted to know every fucking thing that I did every second of every day. And any time that I would say something strange or she thought I was saying something or trying to cover something up, she would press that shit harder until I would like say stuff about this. And then I would end up saying, yeah, man, she kind of leaned in on me pretty heavy and just like, kind of like almost sat in my lap almost. And she'd ask more shit about that. And then by the time the story was over, like it became her interpretation of it rather than what I said. And I think that ended up fucking up a lot of relationships over the years. Like it ended up being her interpretation of what happened and not so much of what I said. And that shit just really, really, really bothered me. There was like, I'll tell this story, fuck it. So I had, when I was 15 years old, I had a teacher. By this time I had moved back to the Bennettsville with my grandparents and where my dad lives. And I had this teacher who I had outside of school relationship with because of like church. It was a Christian school, and she was like the youth leader. She was the cool youth leader. She would come to all of our houses and pick us all up and like take us on random trips. Like she took us to Washington and shit. It was like actually really fucking cool. But after a while, like we started like talking on the phone and shit. And I was like 15. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But we started talking on the phone, and I guess I didn't know what I was doing, but I guess I was like flirting with her or something like that, or leading it on. And this ended up going farther than getting to the point to where we were like, you know, making eyes at shit in the middle of class and stuff like that. And I'm like 15 years old thinking, oh shit, this is, you know, is this what this thing is like? I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But we started doing shit like that. And then all of a sudden one day after school, she starts grabbing me and shit. And I mean, I'm grabbing back and all that stuff. Like, and this is in school. And I talk about all that stuff, or not. I talk about all that stuff happened, and then I know I am. I'm sorry, but nah. And then it gets to the point to where we are all gonna be Sunday school teachers, and I was a Sunday school teacher for the kindergarten age kids, and like we were. She was the youth leader, and I had the K through second grade, I think. Then I would just, you know, play little songs and stuff, and we'd sing and shit like that. But anyway, we had a prayer meeting to just pray over the season of, you know, this next season of like Sunday school that we were going to do. And after we got done praying for that, I had to go drop my sister off at home. I dropped my sister off, and I had just gotten my first cell phone, which wasn't even my cell phone. It was my grandma's cell phone that I used when I was driving, because I just got my license. And they wanted me to have a phone because if anything happened. So I used my grandma's cell phone. I was pulling into my house and got a phone call from the teacher. And she was like, I thought we were going to hang out and go meet up somewhere. And I was like, nah, I was feeling weird about it. We had just prayed. I felt convicted. I was Jesus boy. I loved God. And like I was like, you know, on fire for Jesus. And I was like, I feel convicted about this. I don't think it's the right thing to do. We can't do this. And she said, all I needed was 5 minutes. So damn it, I went, and me and old girl met up in a dirt road down the road from my house. She had me by 9 years. I was 15. And my very first, I'm not going to go into detail, my very first sexual experience occurred there. And after a while, like, I got to feeling bad about this thing, and I was like, oh man, I've got to go home. I gotta get back to the house. So I got home, and I went straight to my room and like went to bed for the night. Like, it was, my folks had to have known something was wrong, right? My folks had to have known something was wrong. They're not stupid. So I can't believe I'm fucking telling this story. I've never told the story before, ever, on air. So anyway, go back to school the next day, and I'm acting like, oh man, this is weird, you know, like this is strange. Well, we shouldn't, that should not have happened. That totally shouldn't have happened. And then like she kept like fucking with me and shit, and like trying to, and y'all you gotta understand, I grew up in a very religious home, very religious people. And like I'm very much a religious person myself, and I was feeling convicted by God. Like I was like, shit, this is bad. I was feeling very, very convicted about the situation. And after that happened, and she continued to try to like, you know, touch me and shit like that, and like in class and in school and shit, and like mess around with me. And then she started like sort of holding it over my head, like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to tell Pastor Larry if you don't, you know, like, or whatever have you, and just saying shit like this. And I was like really, really stressed out by it at that point. And it was affecting my life outside of school. And like, it was just something on my mind all the time. And it got to the point where I didn't care anymore. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to do the shit. I didn't want to be around them. And then, like, everybody sort of probably knew something was going on, but somehow my mom started badgering me about something. And at this point in my life, also the very same time, fucking crazy story, I went to the dentist to have something done with one of my teeth, and I had like a really bad cavity in the back of my mouth on the last molar. And they were taking an x-ray because they were going to have to take that tooth out, and they were taking an x-ray. In the x-ray, and they found something in my sinus cavity that was a little shadow. And they found out that when I got in that accident when I was 8, the wisdom tooth, the cyst that a wisdom tooth grows from, was impacted in my sinus cavity. And it was growing on schedule. It was just doing so inside my sinus cavity. And they went and they said, this thing's we got to get this out, and we'll send it off and test it and make sure that it's, make sure that there's nothing wrong with it. So I went and got that done. And at the same exact time, like, it was just, I found that out about this shadow that was on this x-ray that people were worried about, and they were using words like malignant and cancerous and stuff like that. And I'm 15 years old, so I'm hearing all this shit about a potential malignant tumor or a potential malignant cyst in my sinus cavity close to my brain. And I'm 15 years old hearing all this shit. I've got a teacher that is literally like sort of holding something that I feel guilty about over my head. And fucking, like, I don't know, my mom just badgering me all the fucking time. I finally broke down and like snapped one day and was like, I got this going on, and I got this going on, and I got this going on. Like, I'm just thinking like all this shit that I'm just getting out, and I'm finally getting it out and I'm getting it off my chest. And then my mom like sits me down and makes me explain all this shit to her, and I have to, like, and I'm just, at this point, I turn into like a child, like I turn into a child when like she's asking me something like I turn into a child and I explain what happened like a child would. And then like she made me explain it to my stepdad word for word, and she made me tell him again. And then the next morning she said I wasn't going back to the school, and she drove up there and she made me say it in front of my stepmom and my dad. Like, my mom forced me to tell that story. And granted, I was 15 years old, but y'all, I was a naive kid. I was just a naive kid. Like, I was a sheltered kid. And I didn't know any better. I just told the story. I did what she said, and I told the story to every single person that she asked me to. And my very first sexual experience, I had to explain to my parents and to the administrator of my school and all of that shit. And they said, okay, well, in the meeting, it was me and my mom and stepdad and my dad and my stepmom. And we were all in there together in the administrator's office, who is a very close family friend. And he said, well, first off, she's going to lose her job. She's not going to work here anymore. And he said that everybody had kind of known, that something was going on, because we had a legit, like, a relationship, So they were like, so, and not only that, worst part of the situation, she was married, she had 2 kids. And like, like I said, I know that's awful. That's probably the worst part of the situation, but I mean, not to like try to make myself look any better in this situation, but I was a 15-year-old boy and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So in the office with my parents and both step parents, had to explain this whole story in front of the administrator. He says she's going to be fired. He says, you have to have this surgery at the end of the week. You are already going to be taking some time out of school to have this surgery. So why don't you go ahead and take this time out of school and go ahead and have the surgery. So I was like, all right, that's fine. They gave me the week out of school. And like, as I was walking out of the school, the teacher walked out of the classroom and just popped her head down the hall and looked at me. And then I turned my head, and I guarantee at that moment she knew exactly what had happened. And then, like, the husband of the teacher saw my dad at this, like, church function or something a couple of nights later, and my dad was a greeter for the thing, and he was just, it was his job to shake hands and say, hello, how are you doing? And he did that, and the guy kind of, like, said, your son ruined our lives. How do you think I'm doing? And my dad, like, didn't exactly take too kindly to that. So, I mean, it was sort of a situation where it was like, you kind of got to, you should like pretty much get out of my face right now. And, like that, I don't know, that weighed on me a little bit, just knowing that I was like, shit, that's not cool, man. I think I was realizing the weight of what I had done, or not what I had done, but the weight of the thing that I was a part of. Like, I didn't understand that then. I didn't understand how heavy that shit was. But it was, man, it was heavy. And that whole situation, that entire situation of like just my mom forcing me to tell this story over and over and over to everybody, and me finally just being like, I'm not saying it anymore. I don't want to think about it, and you're making me talk about it. Because this situation, you have to understand, as a 15-year-old boy, I experienced this thing, and it ended up, I experienced this thing, and it ended up like slowly becoming I slowly started to see what actually it was. And then I was just like, oh man, this is crazy. And it's the sort of thing that my brain wants to try to block out. But I've got to tell this story over and over. And I was just like, listen, I'm sorry, but I just can't do what you want me to do anymore. I can't say anything about this. And that was a traumatic experience. Just having to explain, like, it just seeing just how she wanted to make this whole, she wanted to make this whole situation, I don't know, like, I feel like she just wanted to find a way to benefit from this situation or something, or because what does she gain by me telling this story over and over? But it's funny. It was a lot easier to talk about than I thought it would be, Brady. But I don't know. I've never told that story before. I was actually waiting for not a specific time, but I was waiting for the right time to tell that story. And I guess now is it, because it's out now. But that is probably outside of episode number 6. That what just happened is the most personal story I have ever told on this podcast. And I think that is as real as I've ever been. On this show, anyway. But it's just that whole situation, and all my friends, a lot of my friends are like, dude, you're single, man. If I was single like you, man, I'd be hooking up with chicks every single night. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I understand, but I got all of that out of my system already. Like, even after that, I still had a few years where I was just doing what I wanted to do and living my life like I wanted to live it, and not really caring, and hooking up when I wanted to hook up and stuff like that. But like, I finally get to a point to where I'm especially after quitting drinking and doing away with the booze and doing away with the drugs, the hard drugs, like doing away with all that shit. Once I started like getting down to the base of who I actually was, I started thinking about all that stuff, man, and it just uncovered a lot of old memories and old shit. And I was just like, man, I ain't got to be that person no more. I ain't got to do that. I don't have to do that. I don't have to be that. And shit, man, people always say, oh man, I would hook up with all these girls if I were you and I was single. Like, good for you. I'm glad you would do that. But I have already strolled down that road, and I know that way lies madness. So if you don't mind, I think I'll just wait until I find somebody who I'm willing to spend the rest of my life with, and then just hook up with that person a bunch forever. And that's what I'm looking for now. Because fuck, I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm not looking to do that. That's not... And anybody who's out there who's 30 plus years old, who's still out there just trying to hook up and trying to stay in the game, what are you really doing, man? What are you really doing? I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just an old curmudgeon over here thinking, oh, you guys are fucks because you don't perform, because you don't do the same things that I do. What's the word I was going to use instead of perform? Because now that's throwing me off. I don't even know. It doesn't matter. But seriously, though, I mean, I'm not to the... right now, I just don't... I don't know. I was the product of a simple hookup, I'm sure. I was the product of that. I very seriously doubt my dad and my biological mother would have had any sort of relationship at all had it not been for me. And obviously it didn't work out for them because... obviously, it didn't work out for them because it wasn't meant to be to start with. And to be quite plain, I am a very sad person. I'm a very, very sad person who at multiple times in my life have had suicidal thoughts. A lot. And it took almost succumbing to that thought to get to the other side, to break out of that funk that got me to that low point. I understand the probability of if a pregnancy were to occur because of a hookup, that 9 times out of 10, that relationship will not last. And I do not want to risk creating... I do want to have kids. I want to do that. I want to do that later in life, obviously. But I do want to have kids one day. I just don't want it to be in a situation where I am having a child with somebody who I'm not going to be raising this child with. Because I don't want to put another human through what I went through. Especially if that human is my child. So anyway, now that I have gone all the way down that rabbit hole, I think I'm going to wrap this one up. So in closing, I guess there was just a lot of shit that I needed to say. I appreciate you listening to me ramble for an hour and 15 minutes. Shit, I didn't expect all of that. Wow. Yeah. So I guess that needed to be said. Anyway, I'm sorry to have been a bummer in this one, but I hope that maybe if somebody else out there has had a similar situation or had anything like that happen, it's happened to me. It just, that situation simply happened to me. And, it's talking about it removes the power from it. Pointing at the snake in the room takes the power away. It's only scary when you can't see it. Knowing that it's there takes the power away from it. But anyway, yeah. If you need, like, if ever you were wondering if anybody else experienced something similar to that, then that's my story. I'd be happy to talk to you about yours if you'd like. But contact me at misnerds@gmail.com and we'll talk about it. All right. So please go to mistuffpodcast.com. Subscribe. However you're listening to this podcast audio, please subscribe to Kelsey Hudgins on YouTube if you guys want to watch the video as well. And audio listeners, that is more for you guys. If you guys want to check out the video production of it, then please go over to YouTube, Kelsey Hudgins. Also, if you do just the video and you want to hear a little bit more of I do a little bit more editing and a little bit more work and put a little bit more makeup on the audio versions of these things. So if you guys want to check that out, please go to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Castbox, anywhere podcasts are available. You'll be able to find MI Stuff Podcast. Please drop a subscribe on that. Please drop a rate or a review or a review on that if you wouldn't mind. I sound like Red Band over here, the world famous comedy store. Please drop a rate and review on that if you wouldn't mind. Drop a subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you want to follow me on Instagram at YonderWizard, WIZZERD. At Kelsey Hudgins on Twitter, at Kelsey Hudgins on Facebook, at MI Stuff Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you want to follow the podcast, and mistuffpodcast.com, the website. I'm going to be dropping some t-shirts and some merch and shit on that over the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be happening. What else do we got? A lot of cool shit going to be coming your way soon in the podcast world. I have to take a piss real bad, but I got to finish this before I do that. I know there's something that I'm forgetting. Tomorrow's stories begin right here. Screwball Whiskey, SKREW, ballwhiskey.com. Go to your local liquor store and ask them for a bottle of Screwball peanut butter whiskey. And if they do not have it, they can order it. Tell them to do so. Try the Screwball peanut butter whiskey. My wonderful sponsors. I love Screwball peanut butter whiskey. The people of Screwball peanut butter whiskey. I've never actually tried it, but every single guest that I've had on here that has tried it has said nothing but good things about it. As a matter of fact, the only bad review I've gotten is how delicious it is and how much of it that can be drunk. And how awful you feel for drinking so much of it because it's so damn good. That's the only negative review. It's so good. It's too good is the only negative side of it. It's delicious. Screwballwhiskey.com. Tomorrow's stories begin right here. SKREW, ballwhiskey.com. In a world full of shitty people, don't be one of those people. Be a good person. Peace, bitches. All right, YouTubers. I love you. I mean it. Be good people. I got to take a piss. I love you. Deuces.